We're now joined by Kelly Nichols. LA Guns, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you today?
Oh, doing great. I know we're gearing up for the big Renegades album. We got Crawl out there. We got Well Oiled Machine. I know you guys are sitting on a treasure trove recorded right at the street from us here in LA. But if we could, before we talk about that, could we go back and talk about your earliest influences? What were those first bands or records that you fell in love with that made you kind of want to do this?
Well, I tell you, when I grew up, and I'm still really into motorcycles. Like, all I cared about when I was a kid, I used to race motocross and everything. And one Christmas, when I was about, I'm going to say 15 or 16, something like that, my friend's wife got me some albums. She got me an Aerosmith record, she got me a Kiss record, and she got me like a Sabbath record or something for Christmas. And that was it, man. I just kind of really got into that, and then the motorcycle thing didn't work out because we moved a bunch of times, and all my shit got stolen. So, like when I was a kid, I knew what I didn't want to do was I didn't want to like be in an office my whole life. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to see the world. So I was like trying to figure out how do I see the world with some buddies and have fun, and how could I do it? And I was. The more I found out about rock and roll and touring and, the life and everything, it seemed to suit me just right. So that was pretty much it.
Yeah, well, definitely a typical story. Now, what was it that made you move to L.A.? Was there a band offer, or you just knew that was the land of opportunity?
I definitely felt it was the land of opportunity. I was playing in a couple of bands out here on Long Island, and I felt that people, musicians in New York, really, most of them were happy kind of just playing around here, Like, they didn't really have visions of grandeur. So I wanted more than just being like a local hero kind of guy, just playing clubs out here. And so I really wanted to see the world. And so, the more I read up about LA and the more bands that were coming out of there, and there was like scenes happening, I decided to do whatever I could. So I went out in 1984 with my best friend Mike Pott, and we stayed for 2 weeks. We had $200 and round trip tickets, and we ended up with a limousine ride back to the airport. And I just fell in love with it. So I came back, and then I got everything I had to do to take care of all of the loose ends here, and I went back permanently in '86. And it was a different vibe. And people were ready to go anywhere. The musicians in LA, they were ready to go. They were ready to travel the world. They had no problem with, saying goodbye to your girlfriend or your family. And, you got to go out and make your mark, So, and now all the palm trees were, they cleaned them just for me. So it was like shiny, and the beach and the sun and the nice humidity, and the vibe in LA was cool at the time. So, and the scene was, unprecedented. It was to be there.
Yeah, well, we all grew up with the love of these bands, and you'd only imagine the parties and the craziness, going on with them. And sex, drugs, and rock and roll was easy, when you're in a band playing local. Even if you woke up with a hangover or whatever you had to do, you'd kind of make it to the next gig. But for a touring band, you start to realize that these guys that are really successful, the Kisses and the Van Halens or whatever, the Aerosmith, they had to kind of be an athlete, to be able to withstand not only the travel, but doing it at a high level every night, and somehow surviving it. At what point did you realize that, maybe partying all day or some of the access you saw here in Hollywood, you kind of had to temper that if you were going to have any kind of longevity or be able to, of a clear mind, put on a great show and write the next hit?
Well, the thing is that, like, when you're out there touring, like, we used to tour for like 11 months at a time, and then come back and do a record for like 3 or 4 months and do it again, go back out on tour, just went all over the world. So, the thing is, like, every time, when you're on tour and you finally get to New York, the people there, they'll be waiting for you. So after the show, there's a party, and, so you don't have to go, or else you're sitting in your hotel room doing nothing, And then, the next night you're in New Jersey, and then the next night you're in Connecticut. They've been waiting for you forever, and they have a party for you. So, you end up, like, just into this endless kind of just, grab and sleep when you can. But, we're a lot younger, a lot more indestructible, So we just kept going, and I never felt, I never really did the major hard stuff, but I, did plenty of other stuff, but I never really felt that my health was at risk at the time, So, like, again, we were young, and you could just, you could just do it. You could just live on a few hours of sleep, grab an hour here, whatever. But, if you're not doing something and partying, after the show, you just go back to your hotel room, and you miss out, and you have to listen to the cool stuff that happened that night, and you should have been there, and, the shit was crazy. So, you want to go, you want to be a part of it, and like I did personally, I wanted to go and explore and see as much as I could, and meet people and party. It was a good age to party. In your 20s, you're ready to go. But I felt like the only time I felt like it was time to go was like when Nirvana came out, and I felt like things were changing, and we weren't really that viable anymore or that relevant anymore. And then I had daughters. I had a stepdaughter and a daughter of my own. They're both my daughters. But, then I wanted to stay home and be with them at night. I had enough of an amazing experience. I did almost 10 years solid of touring and recording and been all over the world. And that was, my main objective was to see the world when I was a kid, like I said. So I wanted to, I felt like I did that, and I had enough of it. So I just took a break from it. I kind of just went a whole different thing and raised, family and hung out, hung out with them. So.
Yeah, well, like you say, to the average concert goer, they've been saving up for months after having bought that ticket, and they got all their party favors and everything. They want to extend to the band or, be a part of the party. But, night after night, like you say, an 11-month tour, you got to pace yourself or, like a lot of these guys, they didn't wake up in the tour bunk the next day, like Shannon Hoon. I know there's a new documentary on him, but you mentioned that grunge era with Kurt Cobain and Andy Wood and Lane Staley. But before that, we all grew up, missing the Hendrix and the Jim Morrisons, Janis Joplins, Keith Moons, Bon Scotts, the John Bonhams. You kind of realize, like, wow, what if Hendrix was still alive? What if he had kind of tempered what he was doing and made another 40 albums since then? All the music you miss. So, these days they kind of say the party's on stage. Backstage you kind of, you got to stay healthy. You got to stay in shape, for the tours, and you kind of figure out the priorities in life. So I know, to the average fan, sometimes they think it's a nonstop party, but like you guys want to do. COVID's kind of curtailed some touring, but you guys at this point would have been out there on the road doing as many dates as you could, and delivering a high performance show, especially with vocals. A lead vocalist really got to take care of their voice. Talk about that, because I know even in LA Guns, the first singer, Paul Black, they had to kick out of the band because of his habits. But somebody like Phil coming in, I'm sure he had to temper his party and to protect his voice. And even with Kurt now, something like vocals is very, very, sensitive. You can get a new guitar, you can get a new amp, but you can't get a new, throat and voice box.
Yeah, listen, there's nothing worse than seeing, like, the singer in the morning and he's like, he barely talks. So you're like, oh my God, But, I mean, Phil went through a lot to try to keep his voice good, but he partied his ass off like we all did. And he was right there with us. But, he would drink tea and he would have a scarf and he would try to relax during the day. When we're on our way to the show or once we get there, if there's time to rest, he would definitely rest. But, yeah, it's, again, we're a lot younger. You could take a lot more abuse, a lot more abuse. But I don't know. Some people couldn't take it, I guess. I don't know. Why is Keith Richards still alive?
Yeah.
Some people just have that, the gene pool is, they can handle it better. So, I don't know. I felt good about it. I didn't really think it affected. I mean, we drank like fish. We did all kinds of drugs that we shouldn't have. And, it's just, I would have just attributed to being able to do it by, being young, the youth and stuff.
Yeah, well, somebody like...
You're excited, the whole thing's going, and it was a fun, it was just a, daily party. Again, you get to a different town, they've been waiting for you, they've got something lined up for you, and, most of us would go and just hang out as long as you can, and then, get out of there.
Yeah, well, somebody like Nikki Sixx was lucky enough to, come back to life and live to tell about it. But so many of his peers, the Robin Crosbys and the Janie Lanes and even the Tom Pettys, these guys, you can't believe they're gone. It's the music we miss that you kind of think about. Now, obviously, with Renegades, this is a big new step, a new unit. We talked to Steve Riley. We know you guys got a great singer and a great, guitarist with you. But one last thing on the original lineup, with the Ballad of Jane, which you were a big part of writing, the biggest hit the band ever had, big MTV hit. Was that a story about Jane Mansfield? And if it was, what inspired to write about here? Was it kind of symbolic of the whole heyday of the Blonde Bombshells and the heyday of Hollywood, or what did that represent for you?
That song barely ever came to be in the first place. Mick and I were jamming one day at my house, I think, and we just had a couple of beers, playing guitar, smoking, and he just played this riff, and then he went on and started playing a Stones song, and I was like, wait a minute, man, go back, that riff was cool right there. So we worked on that riff, and we finished the song out of it. So we recorded the whole music and still had wrote a melody and lyrics for it, and I wasn't really digging it. So we had one day left in the studio for recording. So I took the recording of the music home that night, and I played it over and over again. So I lived alone at the time, and I had the Playboy channel on. So I'm watching this. I got the volume down on the TV, and there's a special about Jane Mansfield, and I just was kind of watching that and how people reacted to her, and then her husband, who was being interviewed, who was still distraught by it, that was still affected by it. So I kind of, wanted to make it about everybody's Jane, everybody who's lost somebody who's still, they're still part of your life, and, how you just kind of have to deal with it. So with one day left in the studio, wrote the melody, and wrote the first two verses of the melody, and Phil came over at like 3 or 4 in the morning because he wanted to see what I had done. And I asked him if he would write the last verse. So Phil wrote the last verse, and we took it in the next day, and he sang it. And still, not everybody was on board with putting it on the record even. So I had to fight really hard to get it on the record. And like you said, it was an only hit, and it just kind of almost never came to be from the very beginning. So you just never know,
Well, we've heard so many of those tales that some of the biggest songs weren't gonna make it on some of the albums, and in retrospect you think, wow, what if, You would have
Yeah, I mean,
missed
the
that
whole world
chance.
for us, to have a hit song. Like, we never really considered that, like trying to, write a hit song or really aim for a song that would be on the radio. And we still didn't even with Ballad Jane. But, we were just on tour. We just wanted to rock. We weren't thinking about, we weren't thinking of all the dynamics of people at work listening to the radio, people in their cars. I kind of had a closed mind of just people, coming to shows or listening to in their bed with their headphones on, rocking out or something. But, you don't think about how far music reaches. But once Ballad Jane did well, then you start, like, when the kids' parents know the song, then you start knowing you got something, when you're reaching outside of your core audience and it's growing and it's on the radio, and so, it's a neat experience. But we didn't plan on it like that or anything, we didn't plan anything really ever. So we just got lucky with it, but it definitely changes, I don't know how to say it, but it adds another point to the band to have a hit song. It puts you in a different category, and just wish I could do another one.
Yeah, well, a lot of your female fans that were in their 20s back in the 80s might be in their 50s or even 60s now, and that's the kind of song they can still listen to, and maybe their kids are listening to that and then getting turned on to LA Guns and wanting to find out, what rockers you guys have. So it kind of keeps the generations growing. Do you see that? Because I know if you go to a Stone show, you see kids, you see teenagers, you see people in their 20s and 30s, and then you see, their original fans, our age. So do you see that when you guys play shows, kind of the different generations coming out because their parents turn them on?
Yeah, there's always stuff like that. My friend sent a video of her daughter. She's like, doing ballet in school or taking a ballet class, and she was doing it to Ballad of Jane. So it's always tons of different stories of stuff like that. But yeah, people, if their parents play it, kids will hear about it, and kids, definitely kids who get into it, if you like it, you like it, and then it opens up a whole new world of, that era of music and stuff. So, yeah, it's still got breath in its lungs, there's still people who listen to it and love it and, aren't going to listen to rap, just because it's popular. There's people who, that's their music, so as long as they're out there, we enjoy doing it. But I hear all kinds of stories. Somebody told me that, like, Ballad Jane was their wedding song, and, so it makes you feel good that, you created something out of nothing that touches people, which is, what it's all about. So it's an amazing, gift always.
Yeah, well, it could have been 1,000 other songs or bands they chose, so it means a lot to be in their hearts, And I know with the new Renegades album, Crawl and Well-Oiled Machines out there, but what else can we expect? Are there some lyrics in there, some things that you're most proud of coming together? I know Steve told us the story, you guys doing all the prep and pre-production right here at Mates, which we're just a couple blocks away from at our location here, and
cool, yeah.
putting the songs together to take into State Street Studios. What are you most proud of as far as what you think will be a lasting quality?
Well, okay, the record's got 10 songs on it. It's got 2 ballads, one kind of mid-tempo, and the rest rock. And we definitely wanted to make a rock record, wanted to make a slamming record with some moving and some the vibe and everything. The energy was really good. I think what I'm most proud of is that, we really had it was a different way of doing it. It wasn't being able to spend 3 months in the studio and jamming and coming up with stuff. So everybody kind of just wrote songs and would send them to each other. And we started, until we picked out the top 10. Then Kurt's got a studio in his house, so he was able to fine-tune them. And we were able to really learn them. And 2 days, we had 2 days at Mates. Only, 2 days. We haven't jammed in months. We had 2 days to go over these 10 songs and make sure that we all know our part. Because we only had 7 days to record it. So we did, it was the dedication of trying to do it. When we got the record, when Steve asked me to join enjoy the project. I mean, I wanted to make sure, if I'm going to come back out there, I want to do it right. I don't want to just throw some songs together and just brush it together. So the stops and the starts for playing live was very important to make sure that we're tight. The graphics of I've done all the graphics, trying to keep it all with the same kind of vibe. The record was, the same thing. When we got the record deal, it's not just to get a record deal, but, can we do this? We live in 4 different states. Can we pull this together? Can we come up with, 10 songs that, we're all going to be proud of? And I'm super proud of it. And the whole experience of doing it together as a band was amazing. We split everything equally. We're really a band. We're not hired guns. We don't have hired guns. We're taking it all on our shoulders together, and so we're fighting through it together. And everybody was open to ideas, and Kurt, and Scott are just amazing at trying new things. And they felt the pressure of trying to fill other people's shoes, and I was just, you're not filling other people's shoes. You got new shoes, We're going to take part of the LA Gun sound, and then we're going to add, some new guys in it. So it's never going to be totally, the LA Gun sound, but it's going to be a different sound, and hopefully it's a good sound as well. So, we take nothing lightly. We put our names on everything so people know what version, who they're listening to. Trying to do it right. We did the logo for us to set us apart, so we had our own identity, and trying to make sure everything is done right. Really want to do it right. Don't want to just do it for the heck of it. I don't need it. I don't need whatever the adoration or I don't need any of that. I want to do good music, and I want to try to put out a good product that we're proud of, and I definitely am. So.
Well, yeah, we can't wait. It's like a powder keg ready to ignite.
I'm still ready to get it out there too. Believe me, we were so. I mean, if COVID never would have happened, we would have probably released by May. But we are going to release vinyl. We are going to release CD and digital. So we have to. We couldn't press those because the companies that make the records and the CDs were closed due to COVID too. So now we're on a schedule, we're on a list to get our product made. So everything has to be pushed back. So there will probably be a third single, and then the album in the fall, in the early fall. So I announce everything on LAGuns.net. Like as soon as I know. I'm the webmaster, so as soon as I know, I post it and get the people the info. As soon as I hear if any shows are canceled or postponed or rescheduled, I post that right away. So we're on it. We were ready to go. We had a good bunch of shows lined up for the summer. We had a bunch of festivals, Iowa State Fair, Milwaukee Fest. M3 is still scheduled, but I don't know if it's going to happen still. There's a lot of factors in having a live concert today, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But as we hear things, I posted all up there, so we were ready. We were so excited and ready. Can't wait for everybody to hear it and hopefully just enjoy it as another piece of music.
Well, in closing, Kelly, I know we all want to keep rock and roll alive. It seems like it's tougher than ever for a new young band to stand out. No MTV, no, freeform FM radio anymore playing, deep cuts. It's so corporate and streaming. We always say it's the songs that live on, and we talk about Ballad of Jane and what you guys have done. What advice do you have to the young songwriters? Because it's easy to turn your amp up, make a bunch of noise, and, cover some other people's songs. But, to be remembered and to stand out, you really got to write some great stuff. So what little advice can you close us out with to the next songwriters?
Well, I definitely think that songwriting is an art form, and you probably get better as you go, and the more you put into it. But I would always say just do it because you love it. Also, don't do it for the money. Don't if you can be as pure about how your songwriting is, and learning to put your feelings out there, and you're exposing yourself and your vulnerabilities, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to be able to take ridicule and comments, and you have to be able to share your ideas and make them work together. All the songs that we wrote for this record, everybody put little bits into everybody else's songs. We all worked together, and the greater good was that the band sounds good, not that like my song's better than your song kind of thing. It wasn't about that. It was about everybody work together as best as possible, and keep an open mind and try to make the song the best it can be, and it benefits everybody. So, but you gotta, as long as you love it, just do it, and you never know what can happen. You never know what can happen. Even to this day, even with the media that we have or whatever, if you're good and you love it, you'll find a way.
Yeah, and like you've done, you got to live a bit, to be able to write into songs. You got to kind of, experience some life to put those stories into place.
I mean, we didn't have American Idol. We were out there, we were out there starving. We were out there with, no food, stealing food, trying to, just live, like living on the beach, living in abandoned buildings, living in construction zones, sleeping on people's floors. Even to do this record, I slept on my friend's couch for 10 days. It was just like back in the old days. And I went to his apartment in L.A., he crashed on his couch, and I did it because I love it, because I enjoy doing it, because I like when people tell me that the song made them happy, and or it has a special memory for them, or that they sing a lyric that you wrote. It's an amazing feeling that that people like your stuff. So I don't know if you need much more than that. You ain't gonna get much more than that these days anyway. But
Well, we appreciate it all, Kelly. I know some of that edge, sleeping on that couch, added to the sound, the edge of Renegades, man. I know it's going to show. So, LA Guns is the band. Kelly Nichols is our guest. Get online, keep up to date. Kelly's going to keep you with all the news. We can't wait for Renegades. Thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you out here in California.
Jay, take care of yourself, man. Stay safe. Thanks for the time, dude. I appreciate it, man. Everybody be safe. Have fun.